Jeff, I really want to compliment the coaching staff. And I'm not getting off because there are so many guys that played in this football game. You think when they begin this undertaking and how many new bodies there are on this roster, this coaching staff got 90 guys mentally and physically ready to go out there and play. And when you talk about Deontay Foreman, you talk about Ebner, you talk about Khalil Herbert, you talk about Roschon Johnson, you talk about the number of receivers and tight ends and offensive linemen that played in this game, there wasn't any egregious mental errors. There wasn't people out of position. There wasn't timeouts because they were mislined up. All those adjustments were able to be made safely before the clock ever ran out. So when you talk about Deontay Foreman and these types of guys, and you're going to figure out what his role is, I really respect what I saw out of the coaches because every one of these guys were prepared for their opportunity. And I think it gives them a better opportunity to go out and play at a higher rate of speed to, be a positive influence to the coaches.
Seventh series of the game, Roschon was really featured, Tom. He had that play 26, a toss left, fullback lead, slipped 3 tackles and hand fights to the sideline, gets 24.
You think of the first tackle that he ran through, that of an attempted linebacker tackle. There's a guy that has some strength around him, but got an insignificant grasp on his right shoulder and was able to run through it. And once he gets into the open field, I don't think he shies away from contact against defensive backs. So I'm excited about what we got to see out of Roschon. I like the fact that he had that was a 24-yard outdoor run. Yeah. But I like his interior vision. I like his willingness to say if they have a point of attack run inside the shoulders of each offensive tackle, that's where his vision takes him, is not always trying to bounce it outside. So I'm excited to watch his continuous development. There's a lot of other elements of his game that we have to see. However, he knows how to run the ball. He knows how to catch the ball, and I think that is going to give him more opportunities down the road.
We also mentioned Travis Homer. What I loved, he plugged a blitzer in the hole play that gave Peterman a chance at a 37-yard pass play to Isaiah Ford. I think that was one of the prettiest plays of the day.
Listen, that's judgment day for all running backs. And I like Travis Homer. I like his work ethic. I like his attitude. I like the fact that he's out of practice early. He's making sure his body is ready to practice at the level that it needs to be. But then when they get into a situation where they got to pick up a blitzer, how do they do it? Do they passively try to catch him? Do they go out and do they attack the blitzer? And what type of foot movement do they have after initial contact? Travis Homer is not afraid of contact. And so I think when you get an opportunity to have a big completion like that play, it still sticks out in my mind. It's about everybody holding sustained responsibilities.
Vizzy Hard Seltzer, the official hard seltzer of the Chicago Bears. Glad to be a part of Bears, etc. Jeff Joniak, Tom Thayer. All right, let's go to the fourth quarterback, Tyson Bagent, the rookie out of Shepherd University. Had a nice bootleg for 11 at Joe Reed, but the prettiest one, 4th and 7 throw, Doris Fountain, 25 yards. They reviewed it. Feet were in. Catch was good. What'd you think of Tyson?
He's talked about a lot because he went to a small school. I think the first player ever in the NFL from that school. But it's about the mental capabilities of a quarterback. It's the confidence that he practices with and then how he brings it into the game. I really like this guy. Mm-hmm. He's got some moxie. He's got some confidence. And when he made that throw, he put it in a place where only the offensive player could touch the football. And if it didn't, it was going to harmlessly fall out of bounds. I like the decision. Again, I like the protection. And so I'm really happy that the kid confidently threw the ball.
Statistically, offensively, Bears 4 of 12 on third down, Big Tom, on 53 plays, 9.9 yards per pass play. That was great because of those 2 long ones, a couple long ones actually, and 6.4 yards per play, 0 for 3 in the red zone, and a fumble by Tyler Scott. All right, let's go onto the defensive side of the ball. That really was the story of the day outside of those 2 long catch and runs because they were aggressive up front. Enjoyed immensely watching the tape of all 3 levels of the defensive depth chart on this one. The 8 sacks, the takeaways. How would you just summarize what you saw defensively overall?
Super impressed with the organization up front with every single defensive lineman that played, because they had some sophisticated line stunts this early in the preseason that they were able to use super efficiently. And it wasn't all by the veterans that have plenty of time in their stance playing in the NFL. It's from some of the young guys that are getting the opportunity to run these stunts for the first time. And I know as an ex-offensive lineman, if you're getting ready to play against a team that can sophisticated run sophisticated stunts on the line of scrimmage, it can really take you out of the rhythm. And that's what they did. The quarterback, for any of the quarterbacks for Tennessee, they never achieved that consistent rhythm that they wanted to, where they can finally get to their drop spot and feel unhassled, because every time there was an arm, there was somebody reaching for them, there was someone at their feet, there was penetration in between the gaps of the offensive linemen. So I really like what the defensive linemen put on display. But I like the swagger that the defensive backs run with. And I think it's group wide. So I think if they can be complemented by that immediate pressure, by the defensive line, where they don't allow a quarterback to fall into that rhythm, they can play an aggressive approach from the defensive backfield. And what we've wanted to see now the last couple of years is more takeaways and created turnovers.
I got to talk about Travis Gibson. He was on the field a lot, but I had him for 9 significant plays. About 6 pressures. He had the sack, but also 2 very good run stops. He had the leverage on these tackles on either side of the line of scrimmage, and that was big. He had the bend, and those guys could not deal with him. They didn't know what to do.
Right. The thing that really helped Travis Gibson is he had a couple of really nice outside moves that he uses in his pass rushing arsenal. So now the offensive tackle is so determined to get outside and get a preset on Travis before he can get that outside shoulder. There's a couple times that he was able to undercut him and cross their face to the inside. And that's when he made some tackles behind the line of scrimmage. So I think if Travis Gibson can expose a wider variety of moves, it's going to be more difficult for the offensive tackle to get a real beat on him and know exactly what he's going to attempt to do out of his stance. I'm like you. I like to see the effort that Travis gave yesterday, because to me, he probably played the most snaps out of anybody on the defense.
All right, let's stay on the defensive line. Zach Pickens had the early sack. He also had his hands up quite a bit when he was rushing, and he really did get a push, and he was very instrumental in a couple of key plays in this game. But I also like that he was also pushing guys around a little bit. He was not getting pushed back, and that was significant for me. Javon Dexter got doubled a fair amount of times. Pad level probably is something that's going to continue to be talked about with him, Tom. But what do you think about the 2 young guys?
Well, can we also put Travis Ball in there also?
Travis
because
Bell,
Travis Bell. I don't want to leave him out of it because he did some things in the game that I'm really excited to see going down the road. However, when you talk about Zach Pickens, in the very first sack that he was able to make, he won the sack with a nice line stunt, but he was able to get 2 offensive linemen completely out of position, that once Zach got in between the gap of the guard and tackle, there was no help by the offensive tackle, and the offensive guard couldn't get the defensive end that was looping around. So they had to give up Zach, and he was able to get the sack. Really nice, sophisticated movement by the young man. Nice snap count anticipation. Good discipline at the line of scrimmage, not listening to the quarterback's cadence and getting off on the ball. Same thing with Javon Dexter. The guy can cover a lot of room. He's got a really unique body that if he gets a crease on an offensive lineman, he's got the speed to continue upfield, and then the offensive lineman doesn't really have the ability to recover. He plays the run equally as well, as I hope he continues to work his pass rushes in his pass arsenal. And then you look at Travis Bell. Listen, man, this guy is a Tasmanian devil. He's got a spin move out there.
Yes.
Once he learns the balance of offensive linemen, he's really going to make those guys susceptible to falling forward while he uses that spin. It's a really quick interior spin that you don't see that often. But again, when you're talking about the height that he's coming off the line of scrimmage, because he's a 6-foot type of guy, it's going to be really tough for offensive linemen on the inside to get a real significant punch to slow him down.
We're brought to you by PNC, official bank of the Bears, here on the Bears Etc. podcast. Go back to the secondary because Tyreek Stevenson fulfilling some of his early potential with 7 tackles, had a chance at a pick, threw the physicality around. That first play of the game, gave up the big play, lost his receiver, but Kyler Gordon cleaned it up with quite the rocket shot. I know I asked Coach in our post-game interview, hey, maybe Kyler could have gone for the ball as opposed to the hit because the ball came out, but the Bears were not able to well, he was down, right? They called him down, right. Unfortunately. But, no, in that case, you're just trying to stop a guy. But and then he had another big pop in this game. So really impressed with the overall play of the secondary as it continued into that game.
Me too. But, Jeff, I don't know. I think we're impressed by it, but it doesn't surprise us because this is something that we've seen every day in camp, that they approach every day enthusiastically. They've been able to develop depth from a lot of guys getting playing time last year. And then they brought in a couple bodies that immediately have they've impressed the coaches enough that they're getting a starting opportunity. And that's what we need to continue to see, because when you talk about the types of quarterbacks that they'll play throughout the season, you want to be able to have a lot of guys out there to keep their bodies fresh, especially the first game of the year down in Tampa week 2 and then week 3 in Kansas City. So if you have forward thinking and you have multiple guys that are good tackling defensive backs, maybe you have a system that can rotate. But I think overall, every one of those guys and complemented the defensive front, no matter if they were playing first, second, third, or fourth quarter.
Game day snacking calls for good foods, chunky guacamole made with Hass avocados, tomatoes, onions, cilantro, and a squeeze of lime juice. It's the perfect snack to watch while the Bears win, and they did yesterday. So score some today at your local grocery store. Game day is guac day. We continue on to special teams. Impressed out of the gate with Jalen Jones, 3 consecutive tackles on kick return. He went Michael Jordan on us a little bit when MJ was hitting threes in the NBA Finals, and he just shrugged on the last one. He just kind of shrugged on his 3rd consecutive one, but he knows how to play that position well.
I was at that game. I was at the shrug game. But yes, I think us again getting into the season, into the games, because there's more of a controlled special teams atmosphere at training camp. You really don't get to see those guys go all out and really sell out when the final seconds matter. And that's what I mean, tackling the guy or absorbing a block and then deflect off to get the tackle. So yeah, I like what I saw out of the special teams. And again, because of the new kickoff rules, we didn't know how these special teams coaches were going to handle it in the preseason. And I'm glad there was kickoff returns to get the kickoff coverage team some valuable reps.
Let's talk about punt return and Velus Jones. 2 punts bounced in front of him. One cost him as he tried to leap for it. It was a high bounce. Just tracking that ball and beating the ball to the spot with a tail down spiral like that. That's the messaging from Coach Eberflus. It didn't happen. How does he improve this, or can he improve this?
Yeah, I mean, it's just an experienced decision. You can go back and you can look at that single play 100 times, and it can tell you the story of punt returning. Okay, Velus, if you're ever in weather conditions or you're not in a catchable position of the football, get away, give the arm signals to the rest of your teammates that may be in that area, and listen, take what the ball bounces. I think when you stand under there and wait for the ball to come into your hands and the pursuit team is continuing to close the distance, that's when you're playing with fire. So I think Velus, from that one missed punt return, he can learn a tremendous amount about the future punt returns and the conditions that he's facing. He's got the skill, he's got the courage, he's got the willingness, but it's now just about being consistent with controlling the football.
Field goal operation perfect. Santos from 28, 29, and 49 and booted the ball into the end zone, I believe, in every one of his kickoffs for the Bears on Saturday down at Soldier Field. All right, next up, as we bring this to you from United Airlines, official airlines of the Chicago Bears, it's a Monday practice, the final one over at Hallis Hall to wrap things up for the fans, a community service day. And then it's off to Indianapolis for a week with the Colts. We're very much looking forward to this. We talked about it on this show and many times. This is a preview of what the future holds. Maybe more than one team each preseason you'll be practicing with, just like the Titans are going to play the Vikings this week and practice with them, and then the Patriots after that. What are you looking for here? There's a lot to watch. Your guys are going to be popping all over the place, Tom. You're going to have a sore neck.
As much as I like the teamwork and stuff, I like the individual drills as well when you have these combined practices. Because, one thing about an offense and defensive line, for example, once you have 50, 60 practices and you go to one-on-ones and you go against the same guys, you know their balance, you know their stance, you know their arsenal of moves, you know what they try to do. So you go to Indianapolis, a guy lines up across from you, you don't know his tempo, you don't know his stance, you don't know what his abilities are, you don't know what he's good at or what he's he's bad at. So it gives you an opportunity to trust your game and to learn how to adjust to an opponent at a moment's notice. And then you look at wide receiver, defensive backs, whatever you are, you get a chance to understand a little bit more about route running. You'll understand a little bit more about how to judge your opponent and what they can do in and out of breaks. Or if you're a defensive back, how you can come out of your back pedal. And then the linebacker, running backs, either it's one-on-one pass or blocking. There's just a lot of skill development that you can earn in a week's time because you don't know who you're going against that well.
Yeah, and talking to Dave McGinnis, the color analyst and former Bears assistant coach, a color analyst with the Titans, said too, with the coaches, they could go in there and say, hey, listen, we want a one-on-one with player X and player Y. Can you give us that? We have to evaluate this player. And they trade these notes. They kind of set it up a little bit too to get proper analysis for what you're trying to finish with a 53. I think those are some unspoken things that really will make a difference in this as well. Indy losing to Buffalo 23-19. A couple of short rushing touchdowns. They got a pick 6 in the game. But we're going to be looking at Anthony Richardson. He is the darling of the draft in terms of the future. He maybe not be ready-made right now to step in and start, but maybe he will. He was 7 of 12, 67 yards and an interception against Buffalo. We'll see Sam Ehlinger at quarterback, Gardner Minshew as well, and a whole bunch of different players there from Indianapolis that Matt Eberflus may know a thing or two, that coaching staff. Several. Dave Borgonzi, also Alan Williams, and some others were involved with that Colts organization before he came to the Bears.
Yeah, if you do watch the tape of the game, you're going to get a chance to study the next two teams the Bears play, so that always expedites the learning curve for you and I. But I think when you look at how dynamic Richardson can be at the quarterback position, you don't know if it's going to happen immediately or if it's going to be a down-the-road process. Because of anybody in the last 5 years that's impressed me out of the combine, he is head and shoulders above anybody else that I've seen. It's just uniquely enough. He's at the quarterback position, and we have examples like Jalen Hurts and Justin Fields that are in that category of athletes. So it's going to be interesting to watch his development over time if you're a fan of the NFL. But it's still going to be about the continuous developing process of the Chicago Bears, and that's who we're paying attention to. There's a variety of different styles of athletes at Indianapolis, but the better the Bears learn their system offensively and defensively, I think it exposes opportunities for a lot more guys fighting for playing time and earning a spot in this roster. So, and then, there's 6 p.m. practices, Jeff.
Yeah.
This is kind of different. I like it. It's kind of alters the mindset of the Chicago Bears because now they're going to be playing a night game in Indianapolis. It's not going to be a Saturday noon kickoff where you're out of there by 4:00 and you have the rest of your day. You have meetings up until that time that you get dressed and ready to practice, and then you go out and practice at night. That's what I was more familiar with in the USFL than I have been in the NFL, but I like the fact that they're practicing near game time rather than practicing in the middle of the day.
We'll renew old acquaintances there with a number of folks there in Indianapolis.
Oh, yeah. Rusty Jones, former strength conditioning, hydration coach, is over there in the same way. And, a couple of other people. It's going to be interesting. Chris Ballard, general manager, a good friend of ours.
Yeah, Morocco over there as well. And
wow.
So we got a lot. It'll be fun. It'll be fun.
One of their defensive linemen is the brother of a kid from my high school. So I'm going to try to filter through all the, red tape and try to meet him.
Well, the question now becomes, what are we doing for dinner if we're working at 6:00? Are you taking us to early bird special over there at St. Elmo's? Have you been to St. Elmo's? It's gonna be a half-hour ride in, though. You're not gonna.
I'm not going there. No, I'm willing to eat at the. I'm going to eat at training table.
Oh, Tom.
I'm not worried about. That's the last thing I'm worried about.
The shrimp cocktail, Tom.
I've been there.
The hottest thing going.
Jeff, who's been in the NFL longer, me or you?
You have, Tom.
One time we were playing the Indianapolis Colts going to St. Elmo's, and the old Kansas City coach, what was his name? The funny guy.
Graham.
Hank Stram, he was having a health issue right in the front steps of St. Elmo's when we were walking in. And I think McMahon stepped over. Tim McMahon stepped over the top of him to get the story.
No, he didn't.
He didn't do it. He didn't do it inconsiderately. He was just, he happened to be having a health issue.
Hank was awesome.
Yes, he was.
Monday Night Football booth. Yeah, he was
right.
Great.
He was broadcasting our game the next day, and it just happened paths crossed at that time.
The last time we had a preseason game there, remember what happened?
I do not.
Come on now. It was
Fill me in.
It was one of the biggest news stories in the league. It was
Andrew Luck.
Andrew Luck walked out the stadium to a chorus of boos in street clothes. He retired.
Right, that's right, because we started getting that information filtered to us during the broadcast, and it wasn't. I don't know if we sat there and talked about it immediately.
No,
and then they said that he's
Tom. I wasn't
going to meet
sure
with the media after.
I wasn't sure it was a true story. I mean, it was all over Twitter, and so you had to back off a little because he's retiring way too young, right? But he was done.
He took a beating. He made a lot of money, super successful, super intelligent guy, comes from a football background, has a good understanding about the sport and everything. And I admire him for, having the courage at that point in a young career to make that decision. It was a huge setback to the Indianapolis Colts. And, you kind of were thinking that he'd still be the starting quarterback there.
I know. Score huge savings on an impressive lineup of items at Jewel Osco for you. This handy app features hot digital deals on everything from premium produce and savory snacks to butcher fresh meat and more. Get additional details at jewelosco.com. Tom, I think we're done for today. We're going to do Bears Etc. on Wednesday right after practice, so we'll post that for you guys hopefully pretty quickly after that to get a good flavor of what went on in practice there. And I'm sure we'll throw an interview in there as well. And then we got our Thursday night Bears Weekly show, trying to figure out where we'll do that one there because they're practicing. So we'll have to figure that one, Tom. We may have to lay that one on tape. It's possible.
Yeah, it would be fun if they let us sit somewhere in the stands and do it from practice. That'd be fun.
Yeah, well, we do appreciate you guys. That's for sure, Tom. Thank you for your time today. And thanks for listening, everybody. As always, please subscribe now on the Chicago Bears official app, Apple, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts. Bears Etc. brought to you by Miller Lite. And we will talk to you next week from Indianapolis. For Tom, I'm Jeff from Bear Down.